大家好, kumusta? My name is Victor, and today we have the 7Artisans Hope Prime Cine lens set. I have the 6 lens kit right here from 10mm all the way to 85mm. This is a Super 35 or APS-C lens kit. I wanted to know if it's consistent or not, especially in the color renditions. Usually Cine lens sets need to be consistent so that you don't have to match in post, but so far based on my testing, these are much better than the Sirui Nightwalkers, which was kind of deemed as the king of budget Cine lens sets when it came out. I mean, you still have the Rokinon, but this one is another contender to the Rokinons, and it just blows the Nightwalkers out of the park. So let's get started. So this hard case is pretty good. It feels solid. Just reminds me of kind of like a nano case. It's like a 2-step system with the nano cases, but this one is just a 1-step lock. And then it just locks like that. It's got your pressurizer as well on here. So if you are flying with this, it's not gonna build up pressure inside. But so far, the first thing I've noticed when I unboxed this thing was this font. Like, what is this font? Okay, first, the naming. Why did they name it Hope Prime? I feel like whoever named this product just was in a rush or in a, tight deadline. And it's like, oh, let's just name it Hope Prime. And then the logo, they could have done so much better because, I mean, I feel like they went on free fonts and they just found a script and went on like that. Because if I pull up like this on set and then the client sees that Hope Prime like this, or even like other filmmakers, let's just say if you are rolling with a crew and they hire you as a DP or a cam op and you bring this set and they see this and they're like, what is that? Oh, what is this? But that's enough with the logo and the styling. It doesn't really matter. What matters is the performance of the lens, and we're gonna get into that. So we're gonna just open it. So you have the foam on top right here, and then you have the harder foam to keep that in place. Yeah, this is good that they have huge markings on top. This is the silver/gray version, and I like this because it kind of looks retro. It reminds me of some more professional cinema lens sets out there. I like their designs. Again, aside from the logos are here. Do I like it? Well, you barely can see it, but I wish they just went with a different font. You have markings everywhere, 35, 35, 35. You have your T-stop markings over here. So you have meters and feet over here, and it's all available on all lenses, which is great because you don't want to be stuck with one imperial and one metric system. The focus throw is pretty good on all lenses. It's dampened enough. It's way better than the Sirui Nightwalkers because the Sirui Nightwalkers is so loose that it didn't make sense for you to focus pull, especially if you're rocking the 85. I think it's 75 on the Sirui Nightwalkers. But overall, I have no complaints with the build quality. I think this is very professional, especially for a budget lens. It covers everything that you need. These are much more consistent all throughout in terms of build quality. Do these match? And let's hop into the computer and see how they are, and I'll go through it with a color chart so that everything is more technical than kind of like eyeballing it with a few objects in frame. So let's get started. What we have here are all the color charts with all the lenses, and I have the vector scope open so you can see where the dots lie, and then these are the little boxes that's corresponding on these little points. So let's full screen this guy, and this one is the 10mm, this one is 16, 25, 35, 50, and 85. Now right off the bat, what we can see is the 10mm being darker in exposure. Color chart, the lighting, everything's the same, but the camera placement, these are all shot in the minimum focus distance. But what we can see here is that the 10mm is indeed darker in exposure, so that's already something inconsistent with it. I've also noticed that the 85mm is definitely cooler, a touch cooler than the rest, but the 16, 35, and 50 are kind of like the baseline. They all look the same, and I'm going to prove that a little bit with the vector scope. And then we go to the 25, which is warmer. compared to the rest. So if we look at the baseline, this is the 35 and this is the 50. You can see that the dots are fairly close, even with the 85, but you can see a shift in the magenta, blue, green. It's not the same. If we look at the 50 versus the 85, you definitely can tell the blacks are cooler and the whites are cooler as well. If we go for 50 and 35, we can see that they sort of lie very closely to each other. We have some variance in the skin tone line, but that's also okay. We're fairly close. Again, these are budget lenses. And then if we go to the 16, they're fairly close as well. But one thing I've noticed though with the 16, let's just put this up with the 35. I have a note here for exposure. And if we lift it up just a tiny bit on the 16 millimeter, it matches very close to the 35. So that means that the 16 millimeter is just a little darker in exposure. So we'll use these as baseline. The 35 now compared to the 25, look at how drastic that change is. And if we look at the actual picture, the overall image, the color cast on the 25 is a lot warmer. And I've seen different reviews as well, and they've caught into it. So I think it's fair to say that the 25 on this set is a lot warmer, and in my testing, the 85 is a tad cooler. Now let's look at the outlier here, which is the 10 millimeter. It's really, really off in exposure. So I have an exposure node here using the curves. I'm just gonna match them as well. I'm just gonna use the red as a baseline for this. And again, they're not really matching up. So let's see where it does match. It doesn't match with the 25, and it also doesn't match with the 85. So I think this guy is also an outlier. Let's use 35 as the baseline. And then if we turn that off, you can see in the vector scope that it's on the right side. And the 25 as well, we can see that it's off colors on the left. Now, if you have a color chart anyways, you can use this tool right here. I have the X-Rite color checker passport video, and I'm just going to use that and apply it to all of these. That way we can match every single lens in this set. Okay, so in terms of color consistency, these are lacking, but you can easily fix that with a color chart, match it in post, and you can pretty much match any lens from any brand with the color chart. So I highly, highly recommend on getting one. You can nail your exposure with the color chart as well. really like the performance of the Sirui Nightwalkers for focus breathing because it's great. It's super minimal. And then the Hope Prime is very similar in terms of focus breathing, if not better. Now, in terms of the focus breathing performance of all 6 lenses, they are consistent with each other, and that's good to have for a budget cine lens. The Sirui Nightwalkers was pretty bad at it, and again, I've matched all of them with T2.1, and even the Sirui isn't giving you any clean images in terms of chromatic aberration. And 7Artisans were marketing this as like little to no chromatic aberration, and they are completely correct with that one. It matches with my testing, and I love the performance of chromatic aberration on this one. It's clean, and I can trust these whenever I'm doing screens or maybe product shots, because I've used the Sirui Nightwalkers on a product shoot before. It was a tutorial for a phone app, and I had to do the extra work to clean up the chromatic aberration. I had someone shoot for me and use the Nightwalkers, and it was an oversight on my part. I was remotely directing, so I couldn't really see exactly what they were shooting or what the frame was, so that was something that I had to fix in post. But these ones, I have no worries. If I give this to someone to film for me, I wouldn't have those issues at all. And in terms of chromatic aberration performance on all 6 lenses, they all match as well. Again, plus points to the 7Artisans. All right, so let's talk about flares. Here's some sample shots, kind of just flare testing, see how it looks and see how it performs. It's T2.1. Again, here are some sample shots. I'll let you decide if this is enough for you. All right, so my overall thoughts with these is that they're great. They're way better than the Sirui Nightwalkers. I'm not too sure about the Rokinons though, but I'm just going to say that these are probably one of the best budget cine lenses out there. It could have been 9 out of 10, but this is now maybe like 7.5 out of 10 just because of the color inconsistencies between the lenses. It's all kind of sporadic. Like there's only 3 that matches, and then the other 3 is kind of like what's happening. Another biggest downfall is the exposure inconsistency of the 10mm. That was kind of weird. Maybe it's just my copy, but they should all match in terms of exposure because they're Cinelens sets. They have to be consistent all throughout, and that might cause an issue when you're trying to swap lenses in the same scene, especially if you're wanting to use the 10mm. For the color inconsistency, there's an easy fix, which is the color chart. I highly recommend getting a color chart anyways for all your jobs so that you have accurate colors of your set, and products or locations that have specific colors that you really need to keep in terms of your color grade, so that when you're color grading, the client won't be like, oh, can we bring back the actual product color so that it's real and being represented accurately in the video. Great Cinelens set, and if you want more information about the pricing and everything else about this lens, it'll be linked down below. If you have any other questions about these, let me know in the comments down below or message me on Instagram. But until then, I will see you in the next video. Peace.